There's like exact mindset strategies that I use on myself, for a few different areas in my life. A lot of these I haven't talked about publicly. I want to stay in my peak state as much as I can. One thing that helps keep my state in check most of the time are my hourly reminders. So if you just talk about everything and you do this exercise of all the things you're trying to work on and it's in the past, well, your vibration changes. Talk about it like it already happened. You will feel different, but then your energy, your frequency changes what you're in harmony with. One of the journal prompts that I do is this, what I call it's totally possible. You can sit down and look at something and go, yeah, that's not practical. Is it impossible? Well, no, that's all we need. I can't believe I'm saying this. I'll have conversations with my 80-year-old self. Who has my best interest at heart? Who would be the wisest person that would know me better than anyone else that has my best interest at heart? And it is my 80 or 90-year-old self. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new episode of Dieting from the Inside Out. If you're new around here, welcome to the show. My name is Jared Hamilton and I am your host. And I have a very different kind of episode for you today. This episode, I'm actually a little bit nervous, to be honest with you, to share. This is one of the more personal things I think I've shared with you guys. And some of you are probably going to think what I'm going to be talking about is a little bit like out there, which is okay. Like, you're more than allowed to think that. I think this just pattern for me that's coming up. It's just like, I think I'm worried what you're going to think. So let's just talk about it. But because you guys know, like, for me, everything that I talk about, like, especially with this kind of stuff with like the show, it's dieting from the inside out. It's mental work. It's inner game work. Well, there's some special mindset hacks, these special, like, not necessarily like hacks, if you want to call it that, but there's like exact mindset strategies that I use on myself, for a few different areas in my life regularly. I don't necessarily say every single day, but I actually had this idea to do this episode to show you, not just like, hey, do this, but it's like, well, here's what I do. Like, here are some things that I've found that are a little bit different, that some of them that I've talked about publicly, but a lot of these I haven't talked about publicly, or at least not in the detail I'm about to get into with you. I just feel like someone needs to hear it. So, but being totally honest with you, I'm a little bit nervous to share this. It's really personal. And of course, anytime you put some stuff like this online, there's always going to be people that may not agree with it or may not like it. And that's totally okay. So, but I think it would help just to like show that, one, this side of me. And number two, you'll want to use some of these for yourself. Again, this is one of those things where it's like, take the gold, throw away the dirt. Don't, if this isn't your thing, that's okay. And if, you don't necessarily have to do all of these. I'm kind of crazy with this stuff. So I thought it would be good to show you guys some of the mindset strategies and hacks that I use on myself personally. Some of these are every single day. Some of these are when needed. Some of them are like every few days. Some of them are, whatever. But I thought I would just share. It's maybe a little bit different angle on some of this stuff. So, but before we get into it all, be sure and subscribe to the show if you have not already. If you're into this kind of content about changing your life, fixing your mindset, fixing your inner game, especially losing weight, feeling better, and living your best life, well, you'll want to know when more episodes are coming out, because I got some cool stuff planned. I always have cool stuff planned for you guys. So, but let's get into it. So, I literally just, when I was planning this the other day, I literally just wrote all these down, like off the top of my head. There's no particular order. But these are mindset things that I use for me personally. Some of these are every day. Some of these are even every hour. The first one I'm going to share with you is a mindset strategy that I use for myself. I've been doing this for years, every hour. Now, again, some of these, let me just preface it with this. These are the mindset strategies I use for myself for my goals. As in, you don't feel obligated to do these. You may get an idea off of one of these to do something similar for your goals or what have you. But some of these can apply to fat loss goals. Some of these can apply to anything, but some of these are more geared to my own personal mindset stuff that I want to have in check. Okay. So I don't want any of this being taken out of context or anything like that. So number one, one of the mindset strategies, if you're watching the video and you see me looking down, I'm looking at my phone because that's just where I have all my notes at. So first of all, the very first thing that I have on here is I have hourly reminders that go off every hour, some 30 minutes, whatever, on specific things that I want to keep top of mind. So years ago, I thought, I'm like, man, I just wish I had like a Jared following me around every day reminding me what to think about. Because we all know our thoughts create things. Our thoughts control our energy controls what we attract. We act on our energy, and it's like thoughts turn into reality. Essentially, what you think about most becomes about. So this is the whole podcast episode today is not getting into the power of thought, but everything stems from thought. And for me, as a kid, one of my patterns that I developed as a kid was I struggled a lot with worry and anxiety and catastrophizing. If that makes sense, where ever since I was a little kid and on up, I've always struggled, had this pattern of struggling with anxiety as a whole, but specifically worry, doubt, fear can, if I'm not careful, be a pattern and find an emotional home there. And what I want to do is never let that get bad. So for me, I view this as like a scale of 1 to 10. If Jared, a 1, is feeling absolutely terrible, spiraling, sabotaging all the results I have in whatever area in my life, whatever it may be, we'll call that a 1. A 10 is like peak state, as in like I'm crushing it. Results are coming effortlessly. I'm in like that flow state. Everything is magical and effortless. Well, I want to live my life as close to 10 as possible. And I find with these hourly reminders, and I'll share them with you, what exactly they are, it keeps me from drifting. Whereas if every hour I'm reminded these special reminders that are very specific to what I'm working with, I never drop below like a 7. So if I'm at like a 10 and I start to drift and oh yeah, that's right. And it's just a reminder here. And then it brings me back up. That may be an exaggeration saying I never go below a 7, thinking about that. Like it obviously, like here's the thing, we're supposed to be experience emotions. We should not feel guilt because we experience negative emotions or things like that. We're humans. We all go on an emotional roller coaster, but I don't want to stay down here. Right. But as part of this life, as being an adult in this world, let alone like everyone has their thing. Like it's impossible to be a parent and not have stress and strife and all this chaos going on. It's also the same thing as an entrepreneur. It's the same. It doesn't matter. We all go through shit. Well, I want to stay in my peak state as much as I can. Again, not into a point where I'm denying what I'm feeling or struggling with at the moment or at the time of any of this. But for me, one thing that helps keep my state in check most of the time are my hourly reminders. So for example, to finish the story is I remembered years ago, I'm like, man, I just wish I had another Jared, like a clone that followed me around and just reminded me every hour, like, what are you focusing on? What are you thinking about? Don't forget this, like these things. And then I go, I have an iPhone. I can do that. So I basically set, and over time, I'll go through and change them, but I'll go through and set different reminders for every hour, sometimes multiple times an hour. So for that helped me. And now again, like I'm going to get really kind of vulnerable here. I'm going to share with you some of what my actual reminders are, because I want you guys to really understand this. Because again, if you naturally have a tendency to be negative, or you naturally have a tendency to drift and focus on the things that you don't have, or worry or doubt or fear, whatever it is, too often we forget how resilient we are. We have a tendency, because of what's going on in life, or the chaos we go through, we have a tendency to forget how much we're good at pivoting, how we create results, and how all these different things, how powerful we are. And I don't want to forget that, because, and again, it's not like an egotistical thing. It's too often we forget who we are. And I think that's something that some other inner work that I've been doing has been bringing about is I have a tendency to forget who I am. So, for example, some of my reminders are, the first one is something higher is coming through you. So that's my reminder, as like, let's say I'm getting frustrated or something's not going the way I want it. Well, then this little alarm or a little reminder goes off, and it's like, no, something higher is coming through you. Like, what's trying to come through me, right? Let's say I try to do a launch and I'm like, oh, I got this ebook, or I got this program, or I got this thing. I'm going to help all these people, and it doesn't work. Like, oh, and it's easy to be like, oh, well, fuck, what's wrong with me? How did I mess this up? But maybe it wasn't supposed to go as well. And it makes me question, like, well, what is trying to come through me? Maybe something higher is trying to work through me, and this didn't work out for a reason, right? Those kind of things. Another one is that your energy goes further than your actions ever could. So a pattern of mine that I learned years ago is that I can, actually originally, I haven't told this story in a long time, but one of the things that I struggled with is I would hide my emotions with effort, right? Like a lot of you guys, don't get me wrong, I've had plenty of my days of emotional eating way back in the day. But what happened was there was a while where I traded emotional eating for emotional working, where I could shut down whatever I was feeling. I could shut down fear, worry, doubt, anxiety, stress by staying up till 3 a.m. and working or creating content or whatever the case may be. And that's not any healthier. That's still emotional suppression. So for me, if something's not going the way I want it to, I have a tendency, if I'm not careful, one of my old patterns is to just out effort it. Well, I'll just work through it. I'll just grind through this thing. But the thing is, I try to remember, because my strategy brain wants to go, oh, strategize this, this, and this. Let's build a X-step framework for this. Well, we can't forget energy goes further than our actions ever could. Right. And sometimes if I'm in a not so great state, I forget that. I forget my energy transfers so much faster and can do so much more work and help more people and connect more than a lot of my actual actions can. This is why, like, one of the big things that a mentor of mine has shared with me recently is that really hammered on this more was, is we need to do better at just being and do less doing. Now, that's not to say we won't be doing, but we'll have more being, like our actions come from a state of doing, or I'm sorry, I got that mixed up. We'll do so much more doing out of a state of being. I know this is getting pretty in the weeds, but what I mean by that is, like, case in point, how this might apply for fat loss. I had a client that I'm working with who came to me because he struggles with emotional eating. Actually, like everyone I work with struggles with emotional eating, but this one person in particular, they'd been running from the emotions of a situation when they were little for years, right? This may resonate with a lot of you. And for this particular individual, like, don't get me wrong, we're doing the strategies around like journaling and holding space for our emotions and things like that. But this person was like, let's get the strategy to stop my emotional eating. Well, that's a doership thing. That's like, what do I need to do? Where the magic for this person was, we actually had it was actually their very first coaching call with me, where it came out, and it was actually a really emotional moment where we were talking about this stuff, and this person was receptive and was opening up about the things that had happened, and all these tears came out. And they're like, and the person's like, oh my gosh, I never cry. I don't know why I'm getting this emotional. I go, don't stop it. Let it out. We didn't have to do anything. We just were being. He was holding space for what he felt and was just in the state of being for this part of him that has never been seen by the light before. And all of a sudden, these emotions came through, tears on tears on tears. And guess who has way more of a handle on their emotional eating now? From that one instance, he didn't have to go do anything. He was just being in the moment with what he felt, and it happened to come through his eyes. Something higher is trying to come through you, like in his case. And all of a sudden, he didn't have to do as much for his emotional eating. And guess what? He's been having an easy time with. He hasn't been emotional eating since, because he finally held space for this part of him that he has denied, right? So too often, I know this is getting really in the weeds, but for me, a reminder is I don't ever want to have to force anything, right? So for me, I remind myself that my energy goes further than my actions ever will. Because another old pattern of mine is I have a tendency to go, oh yeah, I'll get my energy and my state in check later. I just got to get to work. I just got to start finishing this. Oh, I got these deadlines due. Well, no, my energy goes further than anything else, because I also know this. In the same way, we want to wash our hands before we eat because our germs will contaminate the food. I try to remember that my energy will either emphasize or contaminate whatever it is I do. If I do something with a negative energy out of like lack or worry or anxiety, that energy will contaminate what it is I'm doing. But on the same token, if I'm in a great state with whatever I'm working on, it's like that positive energy goes with it. Again, like, I'm going to be talking a lot about energy and frequency and a lot of this stuff that you guys don't hear me talk about as much, but I know for a fact for me, it makes a huge difference. And so this is why one of my other reminders is your energy goes further than your actions ever could. It enhances them. So what's some other ones? Next, another reminder I have is leave room for the universe's hand to be present. So whatever you believe in, God, the universe, whatever the case may be, leave room for the universe's hand to be present. Too often I have an old pattern of being a control freak or having to like control every little thing. And, where it's like, I have to put all this stress and pressure on my back because I have to make sure it's all okay. Whereas no, I have to do my due diligence, but at the same time, I also need to leave room for the unknown where the magic happens, leave room for serendipitous things, for magic, for miracles, for whatever, from God or the universe or whatever you believe in, to come in. This way I don't have to control it all. Again, a lot of my mindset stuff that I do for me personally is to help where I have a tendency to fall short. You'll see that is a running theme. What's another one? You always find a way to win. You have everything inside you right now. It all worked out better than when you could have imagined. Being successful is so easy. Like, a lot of these are just, like, you can even say they're just affirmations, but they help me. They're great reminders that change my state. Like, imagine when you feel like life is just kicking you in the teeth, you get reminded, like, nah, being successful is so easy for you. Or like you have a tendency, like, say, like me, to worry and you have some anxiety about something. But then this reminder hits that says, oh, it all worked out better than you ever could have imagined. Like, that for me is really grounding, and it helps me a lot. So that's one of the first things I do is I have these hourly reminders that go off on my phone. Okay. Next, I didn't realize how long I'm going to be spending on these. All right. I'm going to try to speed through these a little bit more. Now, the second thing I do is a technique called KYLEGO. So this is a very different style of journaling that you've probably never heard me talk about. So KYLEGO came from, you guys know, I've had Kyle Cease on the show. Kyle is a dear friend of mine and almost a mentor, if you will. I was actually just about a month ago spending some time with him out in Los Angeles. And one of the things Kyle does is he has a style of journaling called KYLEGO. It's basically this idea that him and his friend Diego, so Kyle, Diego, KYLEGO, that they came up with. And I utilize KYLEGOing, almost use it as a verb, a lot. What KYLEGO does is it's a style of journaling. It's almost like a visualization, and I'll get into that as well, but it's different. What you do when you KYLEGO is, too often we only focus on what's in front of us, which is the struggle. And then all we do is focus on the struggle. Then we stay in the struggle. Well, KYLEGO is basically where you can KYLEGO with a person talking back and forth. You can journal or type a story out of KYLEGO, or you can visualize it. I do mine where I'm like actually typing out a story. Well, KYLEGO is basically where, let's say, whatever goal you're working on, whether it's a business thing, whether it's your relationship, whether it's your life, whether it is fat loss, it doesn't matter. KYLEGO is where you basically talk about your life after the thing that you're working on has happened. So for example, let's say you're trying to lose 50 pounds. Well, let's just say you lost your 50th pound yesterday. How would your life look? Oh yeah, I remember yesterday I lost my 50th pound. I literally can't believe how amazing this feels. Like, all of my clothes fit. Everything literally is a joy now. My relationship with food is fantastic. I can go on all these trips and spend time with all of my friends and family, and food is never a worry in my life. I have all the self-control I need. I eat what I want and I stop when I don't want it anymore. And then all of a sudden I'm this beam of beautiful energy that infects, well, maybe that's a bad word to use, that's infectious to everyone else around me. And then all of a sudden, like, everything in my life has fallen into place ever since I really dove into this inner work. Like, that would be a KYLEGO, for example. But you could, like, build and build and build and build on that. Because what it does is when you basically write about your goals as if it's already done and in the past, your brain, it's been proven by neuroscience that your brain doesn't know the truth of whether it's real or fake. It's why if you had let's say you had, I'm trying to think of a good example. Like, if you, let's say, have a worry about something and you start thinking about it, you actually will feel your heart rate increase and your blood pressure get higher and your adrenaline dump. Or if you had something traumatic happen, let's say you got in a car accident and you almost died, you think about it now and your body reacts the same way, right? It's the same way. Or you could even, like, let's say you're feeling a little something and you start thinking about a romantic partnership, your body kind of starts to do stuff. It's because when you visualize these things, your psychology and your physiology doesn't know the difference if it's actually happened or not. So if you all of a sudden build out this narrative and this story around everything that you want, but you talk about it and think about it like it's already done, because the way our brains also work is if it's in the past, it's fact. If whatever you're working with, it is in the past, it is done and it is true and it is concrete. So if you just talk about everything and you do this exercise of all the things you're trying to work on and it's in the past, well, your vibration changes, your energy changes. If you literally KYLEGO right now what it is you're working on and talk about it like it already happened, you will feel different. But then your energy, your frequency changes what you're in harmony with. And what you're in harmony with changes your actions and what attracts to you. And then all of a sudden your RAS takes over. We've talked about your RAS and fat loss a while back, but then your reticular activating system catches on to speed. And then all of a sudden you start seeing the things, and then all of a sudden it's almost like you gravitate that reality to you. It's like, you could call this law of attraction, law of vibration, getting into the deeper sides of like quantum physics. But But for me, not only does it black and white work, it's pretty scary what I've KYLEGO'd, and then down to the detail, it came true. But then also it instantly changes my state. Because again, the brain doesn't know the difference if it's real or fake. Even if you know it hasn't happened yet, your brain, your subconscious doesn't. So that's one of the other exercises I do. Along those lines, I haven't been as consistent with it lately, but visualization is another big one. It's been proven so many times that what we visualize and get emotionally bought in, and you can crystal clear see it in your mind, actually happens. I won't get into all the studies, but there are so many studies showing that what we visualize literally will grow. It puts something out into the universe and magic happens. You draw it to you. Again, some of you guys might think this is airy-fairy and not tactical, but it's tactical as fuck. If you want to study the psychology and neuroscience behind it, it's wild. So that's the other one. Another one I do. I also do this. I try to do it at the beginning of every month. There's a journal prompt that I do called "It's Totally Possible." So I'm a pretty goal-oriented person. Almost to it used to be to almost an unhealthy level, so goal-oriented and ambitious. I would shut everything else down. So luckily though, I've done work around that. But one of the journal prompts that I do is what I call "It's Totally Possible," where I will usually at the beginning of the month, or specifically if my state is not in a good place, if I'm struggling with worry or doubt or fear or these normal things with some goals I have, or let's say things aren't going the way I want it, I will do a journal session of "It's Totally Possible." Well, where it may not be practical, but it's possible, right? That's the thing, is you can sit down and look at something and go, yeah, that's not practical. Is it impossible? Well, no, that's all we need, right? Let's say you feel stuck and you feel like it's too old for you to lose weight, for example. Well, just because you feel that way, it doesn't mean the possibility is all gone, but is it possible you could lose more weight? Well, it's possible, just not probable. That may be in your head. That's all you need. So I will literally go down a rabbit hole of things that I'm working on that it's totally possible, because it changes the way you believe. Because all the brain needs is a little bit of belief, and it kind of really sets a tone. So I'll literally go through a list of whatever the goals or the things I'm working on, and I'll go, "It's totally possible. It's totally possible this month I will get in a flow state and finish my book. It's totally possible that, that I'll have a breakthrough in therapy and I'll hit another level of self-awareness. It's totally possible the collective and will reach new heights this month with the new members coming in. It's totally possible that my podcast will go viral and get millions of downloads this next month, right? Whatever it may be, is it logical or plausible? It may, there may be the ego doesn't like that, because all we're doing is we don't want the ego involved. The ego is let's be realistic. The ego is you might get hurt. It's not very practical. Ignore that. Well, we don't want the ego in charge. The ego being in charge and the old self is not going to help you. It's going to keep you stuck, unhappy, broke, overweight, and sad, because at least that feels somewhat familiar. So this is why one of the things that I'll do is I'll go through and do the journal prompt called "It's Totally Possible." And I'll literally go through all the things that I'm working on that I would love to do that I might have some doubt around. But it's reprogramming my brain around well, no, this is totally possible. Because again, whether it happens or not, because I'm not tying to an outcome, but I'm going, this outcome could happen. It's still a possibility, right? Which means even if I fall a little short of it, that's still a win, right? What it does is it's programming my brain to what's possible. Because if you believe something's impossible, your brain will shut it down. It will shut down the opportunity. You will miss it. You will not even see it. But if you start getting clear on what's totally possible, it doesn't have to be probable or practical. But how many times have you done something or had a synchronicity or something magical happen or something great in your life that you're I would never have guessed that happened, but it was totally possible. So that's one of the other ones I'll do. The next one is I'll pray. I believe in God. I believe there is a creator, a higher power, whether you want to call it God, whether you want to call it Napoleon Hill talks about either the universe or infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call the unknown, the thing way out there that made all of us. Sometimes one thing that I'll do is, I know I don't talk about this kind of stuff very often, because I don't want this to come across as like a big religious thing, but I am a very spiritual person, because I truly believe that we are spiritual beings living in physical bodies that have an intellect, that live in a crazy and chaotic world, that experiences emotions, and most of us act on those emotions. This is why we struggle. Like literally, if you think about like, oh, I know what to do, but don't do it, or I don't know why I sabotage. Oh, it's because you are an infinite spiritual being living in a physical fucking body. That's why, you know? So one of the things that I'll do when, that I will do is, I don't necessarily have a specific time I'll do it, but I do pray. I will ask God or the universe for clarity and for help, or for like, I'll do one of the other things I have on here is sometimes like if I'm really struggling, I'll go on a walk and I'll just get this out. And I'm just like, God, what's going on? How do I get through this? I literally I'm so confused. I feel lost. Help. You know, again, whatever you believe in, like, again, there's no judgment, no anything, like whether you're an atheist or agnostic or believe in, or, you know, Muslim or Hindu, I don't care. It doesn't matter. That's not what my stuff is about. But most people will agree there is something out there bigger than us, that controls a lot of stuff. And so I think it's really important to lean into that sometimes when we're struggling. Again, whether for you that's God or the universe or the quantum realm or whatever. Because here's the thing. A lot of people feel like they have to pick. I believe in all of them. I believe in energy, frequency, vibrations, God, the universe. I believe in all of that stuff because I believe it's all intertwined. And to be honest, I think in a lot of cases for me, I think we're talking about the same thing. What some people call God, you could call it infinite intelligence or the universe or whatever. It's all part of it. For me, again, I'm not trying to get into a debate or anything like that. That's not what I do. I don't think we have to pick. But for me, another one of the things I do that I find grounding in that helps me is I lean into that and I will pray and ask for help to whatever this higher power is, whether it be like even the Bible, whether you're a Bible person, it says like asking you'll receive, seeking you're going to find, all these different things. And it's even in neuroscience and in the reticular activating system, like I keep talking about, is what we do look for, we find. What we ask for, we will find. And we will get clarity on. So a lot of times that's another one of the things that I'll do. Next, I talk about these a lot in coaching and with like clients and in content. So I won't spend a lot of time on here. We'll do brain dumps myself. I talk about if you struggle with emotional eating or any negative emotion, get that shit on paper. Just journal how you feel. Like, oh man, I've had a horrible day. I feel so lost. I feel overwhelmed. I feel sad. Today just couldn't get any worse. Just get it out. It's like the mental and emotional version of going to the bathroom. Well, I do that too. If I've had a bad day, I literally write about it. I will sit with it, whatever it may be, feel through it. I do the same thing because the worst thing you can do is bottle this shit up. It's the worst thing ever. So I still do those. The other thing I do, I like to do quiet walks, whether you want to, for whatever you could call it, a moving meditation or whatever. And I don't know if I would consider it that, but I go on quiet walks by myself in our little neighborhood. A lot of times if I'm struggling with anything and I'm having a hard time or I need clarity, I will go on a quiet walk just by myself. And no music, no podcast, no nothing. I will just go on a walk. And a lot of times I will get clarity from that. I will get grounded. I'll feel better. My state changes. Things like that. It's really helpful. It's one of the other beautiful things with a walk. Isn't just like the fitness side, but it's so good for your headspace and so good for your mental health. It's so good for getting the guidance or the clarity that you need. But again, we want it to be undistracted. So for me, I don't listen to music when I do it. I don't listen to podcasts. I literally just go on a walk and just walk around. Because a lot of times when we start doing stuff like that, that's when these ideas hit or these things will come into our brains and whatnot. So what else? Kind of along the same lines of the walk is I basically will stop trying and get away from the thing I'm working on. Again, whether it's anything that I'm struggling with, work stuff, my own headspace, my own, whatever the thing is in my life that I'm having a hard time with, I will get away from it. Because too often we're almost too close to the thing and we need to almost take a break and like come back to it. So I'll do that a lot. I used to just like sit and hammer through stuff and it would almost make things worse. But if you just keep like, it's almost like scratching a bug bite. You just scratch and scratch and scratch and scratch. You're going to rub this thing raw. Well, in a lot of cases, we need to take a break from it, right? If there's something you're struggling with, get away from it. And you might have the insight that you needed in the shower or while doing the dishes or what have you. But too often we shouldn't be having to force things. Don't get me wrong. There are some times where resistance is required. Like I talk about that we have to lean into some of these things and help with them and overcome them. But also on the same coin, there's there's a dichotomy there where sometimes we need to like take a break and get away from the thing. So for me, I'm in a season where like I'll do that a lot, where if something doesn't feel right, I'll step away from it. Like my state's off and I normally need to like get into content or create a piece of write something, or I'm like, this doesn't feel right. I'm gonna step away from it. My ego doesn't like that. My ego goes, no, that we don't do that. Work harder, bust down through it. Like go, like, no, you're gonna, like these bad things are gonna happen. You need to go harder. Well, that's not really helpful. And that's not only is it not true, but that's not a healthy way to look at this. So for me, it's having to get away from the thing. So, a mentor of mine early on along these lines with the quiet walks and like, and the getting away from the thing is I need to get quiet. Too often when I'm struggling with something, a mentor of mine says, you got to go get quiet. Whether you call it meditation, whether you call it like listening to silence, whatever it may be, is you got to go get quiet. It's really hard to get clarity on the things that you're struggling with if you won't shut up. Like imagine if I'm asking you a question and I'm going, tell me this, what's about your day? How's this been? How's the kids? How's this? But I never like pause long enough to for you to be able to answer the question. I'm not going to get the answers. But too often we're like, why is this struggling? Why am I doing this? What's going on? Why am I having a hard time with this? What should I do? Shut the fuck up and listen. But the problem is most people, the idea of listening to silence is terrifying. Most people would literally rather do anything than listen to silence. Or what happens when you listen to silence and you just go be with yourself? Your brain won't shut up. That's a fantastic thing. That means you're doing it right. Now you're becoming aware of your thoughts. But if you have a tendency to sit down in the quiet and your brain won't be quiet, don't blow that off like, oh no, I have ADHD. I have ADHD too, but I also can meditate. But it's one of those things where don't just blame it off. Oh, I did it wrong. My brain won't shut up. No, that's literally like saying, oh, I worked out and I got sore, so it didn't work for me. Or, oh, I worked out and I didn't get jacked. It didn't work. No, you have to earn the right for meditation and listening to silence to actually be a Zen experience. But too often people will go, oh, I'm going to go sit in silence thing Jared talks about, or get quiet. He's like, my brain won't shut up. I'm like, think about all I have to do. I go, yeah, that is your addictive patterns coming up. Well, guess what? If you go back to doing the busybody life, you're literally giving into that old addiction like a drug addict. Literally, how would imagine if someone who struggled with drugs and getting clean or alcohol or whatever said, you know what? I tried getting sober, but then I had all these like desires to go back to the thing. It obviously didn't work for me. It's like, no, that means it's working. If you would go to drugs or alcohol and you're trying to get clean and you stop taking it and then you feel the addiction, like, I've got to go get the thing, that means you're doing it right because you're not giving into the old addiction. It's the same thing with mental and emotional and pattern addictions that we all have. If we have a pattern of being a busybody, not ever shutting the fuck up or being undistracted, of course, when you sit in silence, it's going to be real loud upstairs for a little bit. So the worst thing you could do is go back to being distracted. That gives into the pattern. Versus you need to just go, you know what? It's allowed to be loud upstairs. I'm going to just sit with it. And then all of a sudden over time, it will get quieter. It's going to take a minute for it to get quiet, but that's why for me, it's one of the things that I do, and I still don't enjoy it, is getting quiet and sitting in silence. So, next, this is something I've recently started doing, this concept of what's called heart breathing and asking. I have these kind of linked together. Heart breathing is basically where like it's a style of breath work where you actually like put your like my therapist will have me put my hand on my heart, put my hand on my stomach, and then but then it'll be breathe into your heart. Or actually, sometimes I'll put both my hands on my heart. And I know the heart is doesn't actually breathe and things like that, but that's not the point. Is some actually other spiritual mentors of mine will talk about this concept of heart breathing too. Some other neuroscientists and stuff where you put your hands on your heart and literally like close your eyes, and with whatever that you're working on or whatever you're working through, if you're doing inner work and you're triggered in these things, if I say breathe into your heart, because you have to understand, guys, believe it or not, your heart has intelligence. It's really fucking wicked, the intelligence that your heart has and the healing powers of the heart. So, and this is where like people will have, it's getting really in the weeds, where there's almost an incoherence of like, well, mentally I think this, but physically I feel this. Like there's a whole different world between the mind and like the brain and the heart. And it's again, getting way too deep for what this is, but heart breathing is where you basically like would put your hands on your heart. Like it helps with the physical representation and breathe, but literally imagine your heart is like a lung, and you breathe into your heart. And a lot of times it can ground you. You'll feel better. And again, because the heart has a level of intelligence to it, a lot of times this is when I will ask whether it's, I'm not sure, aligning with like God or my own intuition, or to be honest, they're probably connected. Whatever it is, like, what do I need to do? And think about breathing into my heart, and whatnot. I told you guys, this is going to get weird. This is airy-fairy stuff, but this is the deep stuff that I don't talk about very much. But again, this is why to be honest, I'm still a little bit nervous on sharing this, because some of you guys might be like, wow, Jared is like smoking some stuff and off the deep end. But I'm telling you, this work has profoundly changed my life. Here's the really weird one. Here's the other thing I'll do. This one isn't as frequent. I can't believe I'm saying this. I'll have conversations with my 80-year-old self. What I mean by that is, I got this idea from Napoleon Hill. I don't know if it's over here. I was reading, one of the famous book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And Napoleon Hill talked about how what he would do is, when he would need counsel, he would seek counsel on certain things. He would literally get into a meditative state and go into his brain and view at a round table all the greatest world leaders like Abe Lincoln, Thomas Edison, Henry Ford. And he would get so deep in this meditation, he would literally like bring his ideas to them and go, what do you think? What would Abe Lincoln say? What would Thomas Edison say? And he would actually get insights. And, depending on what you believe, like, energy is never created or destroyed. So even if they were dead or not there, some might argue the energy is connected. So like whatever you want to believe, it's not my goal to change your beliefs here. So one time I got thinking, I go, well, who has my best interest at heart? Who would be the wisest person that would know me better than anyone else that has my best interest at heart? And it is my 80 or 90-year-old self. It is myself, literally 80 or 90 years old. I think of like the elder wisdom, like the old man wisdom that would come from that, but he would like know who I am, know everything about me, because he is me. And I know I'm not 80. And again, this is getting real weird. So what I would actually do is I would get into a meditative state, really deep meditative state, where like I don't sense time anymore. And I would like visualize what I think I'll look like at 80 years old. And I don't just visualize him, I literally envision him across the table from me. I'm telling you guys, we're getting really deep. Like the first time I did this, I was literally outside on my back patio at my fire pit, and there's chairs around, and I was sitting in this meditative state out in the dark. And I literally visualized, I had a notebook in front of me. I just visualized what I would look like at 80 years old. And I visualized this old 80-year-old man across the table from me. And I would say, keep my breath in place, keep grounded. And then I would literally just ask him questions about things I struggled with. I'm going to go, what do I need to work on? Why is this not working? What can I do better? Where am I missing the mark? How am I doing? I would ask like these really deep, open-ended, like seeking wisdom questions. And out of nowhere, again, whether it was some God, my own intuition, a higher self, or if maybe some future-based 80-year-old Jared was there. I got so many insights from that. I literally have a notebook full of like, oh, write that down. Holy shit, I'd write that down. And to this day, I don't even know. I don't know where the wisdom is coming from, because it wasn't in me. Like it was in me somewhere, obviously, but otherwise I don't know. It's not like, oh, I knew that. It was this whole nother level of insight of something I was tapping into, of something I was connected with. Again, God, the universe, the infinite intelligence of consciousness. I don't know, or maybe somehow I literally connected to like an 80-year-old version of me in a parallel universe. I don't know. But man, I needed every single one of those things. I needed to hear those, and they were right. So I don't do that one as often, but that one was really cool, and I do that periodically. Next, I stole this from Ed Milet. The other thing I'll do is I will again, I don't do all these every day, guys. I'm just showing you like all the different things that I'll do to help with my own head game. I basically use physical triggers to cause a state change to happen. So one of the things I learned from Ed Milet is we can trigger states, right? The state of adventure, or not, maybe not adventure, of ambition, of, like a peak state, a state of worry or doubt or fear, or whatever state it is. Obviously we don't want to trigger lots of worry, doubt and fear, but I want to trigger at certain times, like intensity or joy or happiness or whatever the thing is, confidence, these different things. So whenever I am in these states, like let's say I had a really good workout, I'm in that state, or let's say I'm having a great day, or like things are just crushing it, or I get off a really powerful call with a client, I'm in this like peak state, I trigger it. For me, I trigger it with either snapping my fingers or I tap the side of my leg. So if you ever watch me, like if you're at an event with me and I'm like getting ready to speak, you'll notice I'll start tapping I'll start snapping my finger, or I'll start tapping my leg, or whatever the case is. I'll do these physical things that will trigger an emotional state of whatever the state is I want. If I want to trigger intensity and like in this peak state, it's snapping my fingers and tapping my leg. Or let's say you can trigger literally anything. Now, because what happens is the body is arguably the subconscious mind. So when you change your physical body, your physiology, it changes your mental and emotional state. So if I want to trigger certain emotions, I need to repeat the action or whatever the case is. This is why you'll see batters at the batter's box. They may tap the home plate, or they'll tap the inside of their shoe, or boxers might flick their nose or flick their ear or tap their gloves together. Or you'll see whatever the case is. This is also why you may, let's say you had a rough breakup, and you listen to your old song and it triggers sadness. Or you sit down in a certain chair and it's like your chair back at when you were a kid, like at your home, at your old house growing up, and all of a sudden it triggers nostalgia. Or you smell certain smells of like a Christmas tree, and all you think about is when you were a kid at Christmas time, and it triggers that. Whatever the case may be, our physical bodies can create these triggers. So what you can do is, if there is a state you want to be able to call on demand, when you're in it, tie it to you, whether you, I don't care, pull on your ear, tap your leg, snap your finger, pull on your necklace. It doesn't matter, whatever you want it to be. So for me, for a while now, I've been doing that. So you'll notice, like if I'm on a call and I'm like snapping my fingers, all of a sudden I get really intense and really like passionate and whatever, because it's triggering this inside of me, because that's how I've triggered it. So, or how I built that trigger. So, next, sometimes I literally just talk to myself out loud. You think I'm crazy? Literally, I'll talk through things. If I'm struggling with something, I'll literally like walk around and like just get it out. I told you I'll do those. Sometimes I've recently started taking walks at night and getting out if there's anything I'm struggling with or on my mind, and I just talk out loud. Sometimes I literally talk. You think I'm crazy. Sometimes I straight up have a conversation with myself. If all of a sudden I'm like starting to think negative, I go, nope, Jared, don't do that. Don't do that. You know, that's wrong. It's like my higher self, Jared, talks to lower self, Jared. Like, don't do that, man. You're better than this. This isn't you. This isn't how we think. Let's bring back to reality. Let's get our state back in check. And I'll literally talk to myself like that. Or like if I'm having, there's a day I was having a really bad day and I was just really struggling, and I tried to tap into this higher version of me, and I'm literally talking to my other self like, hey, this is just a day. This doesn't mean anything. We've got this. You can do this. Come on now. Like these kind of things. I'll straight up do that. The other thing I'll do is I will reach out to my mentors and support system. If I'm going through some shit or struggling, I reach out to my support system, my mentors, my close friends, my wife, like the people that I know that I can lean into on this stuff. I always reach out to them. Next, as big, burly, tatted up dude I am, I cry a lot. The more inner work I do, the more emotional I get. And just like I talked about that gentleman that I work with, crying gets out a lot. If you actually were to take your tears during an emotional breakdown, and put it under a microscope, tears actually contain stress hormones. We hold things in the body. When you hold on to emotions and hold on to trauma and hold on to shit that happens, we literally store it in our body. And it's why, like, you may have back pain that becomes a thing, or you might have all these issues going on. It may have turn into sickness, or I've even seen cancer and all this stuff. Whereas this is how you can also heal the body. This is not a doctor, but I know doctors who teach this, this is when you all of a sudden you start healing from the inside out, your emotions and your trauma. You go to therapy, these kind of things. All of a sudden, like, the back pain goes away. all of a sudden, like that throat issue, you always getting sick, goes away. All of a sudden, like all these problems go away. It's because the body stores, like if you have, remember, if you have dis-ease in your body, it can create disease. Dis-ease, you're not emotionally regulated, you're suppressing your emotions. That shit will turn into whatever, sickness, illness, cancer, back pain. It doesn't matter. It happens all the time. This is why we got to heal from the inside out. But one of the things that I do is if I feel myself needing to cry, I will bawl my fucking eyes out. I was literally actually at that event I was at in LA. I had one of the biggest breakthroughs I've ever had. And I was so thankful that it was with my guy, Kyle. I had some stuff coming up for me that I'd struggled with. And it literally, when I say 13-year-old Jared cried his eyes out in front of 40 people, that's exactly what happened. I was talking, asking these questions, and this thing just like came and came and came. And then I literally, I haven't cried that hard since I was an infant. Well, maybe not an infant, probably not an infant. I haven't cried that hard since I was probably like 10, like wrecked my bike or something. I thought I broke my arm or whatever. But we need that though. Too often though, especially us guys, we feel something. We're like, nope, I can't show emotion, or nope, I got to be strong. Like, nah, man, you got to cry your shit. Like when someone tells me like, oh, I can't remember last time I cried. My heart hurts for you. Someone's like, no, I'm tough. I don't need to do that. Like, no judgment, but I feel sorry for you. There's probably, well, if I feel sorry for you, that means there's a level of judgment, but you get what I'm saying is that my heart hurts for you, because crying is so helpful. It's so important. It's so therapeutic. And it literally is parts of you leaving that you need to get rid of. So next thing I'll do is this is something I got from Kyle, is too often we need to become to the space of love for what we're struggling with. And too often we run from the thing that we're struggling with. Like if you have anxiety, you don't want to feel the anxiety, so you run from it. Or all of a sudden you're worried about going broke, or you're worried about becoming like your dad or whatever. Or you're worried about being a bad mom or whatever the case is. Not that we're aiming for this. And this is really weird. We need to become a space of love for that thing. So whatever I'm struggling with, I will literally give myself permission to feel or be that in my body. Because again, I'm talking to the pattern. So for example, and I also do this with clients all the time too. Like I had a client, maybe that's a better example to give. I had a client who was talking about, she got blown off. She was getting ready to go on a date with someone and she got blown off. And she's like, I should have known better. I shouldn't have got my hopes up. I was so stupid. I go, hey, it's okay to be disappointed. You cared for him and he treated you poorly. So don't shame yourself. I go, hey, right now, put your hand on your chest and go, you're allowed to feel disappointed in my body. And she goes, you're allowed to feel disappointed in my body. And all of a sudden she felt better, because you're giving permission to the thing that you weren't allowed to do. Excuse me. Hang on. I feel like a little tickle. So, now that my water's dripping everywhere, that's cool. But that's what you're doing, is because too often we don't need to fix the thing. We just need to be a space of love for the thing. What I mean, like, here's another example I use with clients a lot. Let's say let's say you have a kid, 6-year-old kid, and their dog got hit by a car and died. Your kid's upset, overwhelmed, scared, sad, angry, all the things. And imagine you go, I'll just get you a new one. Stop that shit. No, stop it. I'll get you a new Rover. It's fine. Be a man. I don't know anyone that would do that. If little Timmy's sad because Rover got smoked by a truck, what do? I'm guessing you would go, come here, buddy. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm going to miss Rover too. You're being a space of love for him to feel the things. Because too often when we are struggling with whatever the fear is, whatever the worry is, whatever the problem is that is not you. That is a pattern. That is a pattern you learned. That is a version of yourself that became this thing when you were 13. Let's say you weren't a big fan of your own mom growing up. Let's say you saw your mom be a piece of shit and you're like, I will never be like her. And when you were 13, you're like, I will never be like my mom. And then you like all of a sudden go be really ambitious to be super mom. Well, that's cool. But also if it's under the foundation of, I don't want to be like my mom, that's not healthy. That's not okay. And you'll end up finding yourself being like her anyway, just on the other side. It's really weird how that works out. But not that you're aiming for that, but we need to be the space of love for this little 13-year-old girl inside of you that is scared shitless of being her mom. So maybe you need to talk to her and go, hey, you're allowed to be like mom in my body. It's just the exact same thing as when your kid's dog got hit by a car and didn't make it, and you go, come here, buddy. It's okay to be sad. Whatever the thing is you're fearful of or that you don't want to have happen, you need to become a space of love for it. This was one of the hardest things I ever had to learn. I have some shit that from my childhood and some shit that I struggle with. And literally one of the scariest things ever is like, you're allowed to blank in my body. You're allowed to go broke in my body. You're allowed to be like this person in my body. You're allowed to be a failure in my body. One of the things that I found out that I am so fucking terrified of, I didn't know this until I got deep in therapy. I never thought I was scared of failing. Never thought so. But I found out I am fucking terrified of it. Because I found out through a lot of self-exploration, failing is not that failing I'm scared of. It's if I fail enough, I'll become that. And my identity will be a failure. And for me, that was really hard to wrap my head around. And so it got to the point where I go, nope, that means I have to alchemize this. I have to, but again, if we dug deeper, it's in reality, it's a 6-year-old boy that is scared to be a failure because he'll be like X, Y, and Z over here. So for me, I don't want to just go become this big titan, business titan, and grow all this stuff all over the globe because a 6-year-old boy is scared of being a failure like so-and-so, right? So for me, I had to help heal through that. I had to go, you're allowed to be a failure in my body. And that's hard. Like again, when you're actually really receiving that, it's hard because then other triggers come up. But then whatever those triggers come up, like, no, you're going to go, this is going to happen. Those things are allowed to happen in my body. Well, but then this is going to happen. Those things are allowed in my body. I'm telling you, I'll literally have clients do this, and it is the most profound shit ever. And it will heal so many parts of you. Again, I know this is getting really deep. This is really airy-fairy for some of you guys. If you're not ready for this kind of stuff, it's totally okay. But I just felt like I need to create this episode. So the other thing I do, we're wrapping up here. The other thing that I'll do is I will straight up talk with my inner child. I literally have a conversation with that little fella. To heal the man, you must heal the boy. To heal the woman, you must heal the little girl. Find that this happens so much in fat loss, by the way, in coaching. Whereas most people's issues around weight loss started when you were 13, right? 12, whatever the age was, whether someone made fun of you and then that got you body dysmorphic, or you started worrying about this, or you went to Weight Watchers with mom when like Weight Watchers meetings with mom when you were little. So then all this stuff started, or whatever the case is. There's so many reasons. Well, we need to talk to that person. So one of the things that I do for me, because again, this is through the lens of like what I do, is I've got a lot of shit around my 13-year-old self. The 13-year-old version of Jared had a lot going on, struggled with a lot of things. Some stuff happened, and he needs a lot of love and a lot of reassurance. So one of the things I do in therapy and on my own is I talk to him. I know this may sound weird. You're like, wait, he's not there. No, we all have an inner child inside of us. Okay. If don't believe me, look it up in psychology. It's a thing. And what I'll do is I'll literally like have a conversation with him. Like when I'm triggered and something comes up, I'll like my therapist will be like, hey, what's he need right now? Like my therapist will have me get in like this closed eyes meditative state. And she's like, cool. What's he need right now? I go, he just needs love. He just needs to be told it's all going to be okay. He just needs whatever. And even right now, like even walking through this, I'm like, I can feel myself getting a little emotional. It's because there's this like little like core inner child wound that just needs healed through and needs constant attention sometimes, and it's, and one of the things that we can do as adults is we can give our inner child the thing that we didn't get when we were little. That's the powerful thing, is we can give them that. And again, if this is something you want to get into, I can do a whole different episode on like how to do all this work. I may even bring in like a therapist that I trust to talk about this, whatever. But at the end of the day, for me, one of the other things that I do that's been profound and has been so healing for me and with my own mental stuff and emotional stuff is I actually quit suppressing and hating on my inner child. Too often, actually, this is a thing I've been talking about a lot lately. I don't like the negativity and the aggressiveness a lot of people have towards their inner child. For example, a lot of times we will I see like, oh, we got to conquer this. We got to conquer the old version of us. We got to kill and step on and to overcome. It's like, bro, the thing you're having to overcome is a 6-year-old because that they're stressed and sad because their dad left. Or it's this little 13-year-old who didn't know any better, so they found binge eating. Like, no, we don't need to overcome anything. We need to show a lot of love and compassion to that little one. And for me, because I found out my inner child caused me a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of worry, a lot of strife in my life, I actually built a lot of resistance to my inner child. And so it wasn't until I got really deep in therapy that my therapist really showed me how to love on my inner child and be compassionate and give them what they needed from that I didn't get when I was little. And it's been so profound and healing. And I'm telling you, you can do the same thing as well. And then the final thing that I do, this is the final thing, and I just started doing this. Part of me is pretty careful to say this because it was a recent one. I have been dabbling and playing with and experimenting with some plant medicine with this stuff. I recently have been doing some stuff where, again, not a doctor, not a psychologist, not a therapist, not giving you any medical advice or telling you what to do. I'm just telling you what I've been doing for me is I have been dabbling and using in plant medicine. Like I actually like recently have been like microdosing and slightly above microdosing mushrooms and getting into a meditative state and then going inward even deeper. And it has been really cool. I've quite enjoyed it, and it's already been healing. It's already been so helpful. But otherwise that is what I've been doing. So that is a very long list of some of the different things that I do for my own mental and emotional stuff. I still go to therapy on these kind of things, but when it comes to my own mindset hacks and strategies and things that I use, we'll call it consistently and regularly, that is the list. Those are some of the things that I do. Again, it should go without saying, but I am not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist. I'm just sharing with you some of the things that I've done to really help my mental self, my mindset, my state, and everything else in between. And so if this kind of highlight anything for you, awesome. If this just gives you a little bit more of a peek into Jared, then that's cool too. Otherwise, that is it for today's episode. I really appreciate you being here. Let me know if you guys like this kind of stuff. Cause like, first of all, I want to bring to you content that actually helps you, that you enjoy listening to. So whenever I get a little bit more open and sharing about my life and like what I'm doing and like things that I'm working on, I'm curious, is this stuff that you guys want to hear more about? Or would you be like, I could care less, just show me how to lose more weight? Because if that's the case, that's fine too. But I do think it's important to open up and show all sides of me if I can. So if this helped, I love it. Be sure to subscribe if you have not already. Otherwise, I love you and I will talk to you next time.